Thank you, Afshin. So Afshin was advocating that there's only 1.5% of the UK at the minute is actually urbanised. So why can't we build more? Why can't we develop? Yeah, not even developed. So and he was actually pointing to there is actually a xenophobic element of the not migration watch as such, but people who are opposed to immigration, singling out immigrants as different to British people, etc., etc. So yeah, so I forgot to mention at the start we're actually holding a Twitter online. So if you hashtag Immigration York at the York Union or at York Union, I'll try and get a few questions from you. A few comments I'll give to the panel. We'll try and interact via social media because we're so modernised and technological and all that. So yeah. So let's go to the Q&A now, please. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry. Victoria Ayling, I'm so sorry.
Well, thank you for not forgetting me. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I support the motion for immigration curbs, but I'd rather use the word immigration control, sensible control. And I'm speaking about European Union migrants because I live in Boston and Skegness constituency, which has hit the headlines an awful lot because of the Eastern European migrants. And also I'm an elected UKIP district and county councillor. Now I'm telling you this, my own personal experience, this hasn't come out of statistics, it has not come from the media. There are huge problems as a result. It is not a race issue because the majority of migrants from Eastern Europe are Christian and white. It's the sheer numbers. If I give you an example, Boston's population has increased 15% in a decade, and it's a Georgian market town in a rural area, and that is a huge amount for this place. Or put it another way, 467% increased in the migrant population alone in Boston. It's unsustainable. And as I say, economic migration works if it's freedom of movement, where all economies are the same, but in the European Union they're not. There's extreme poverty in some countries, and I don't blame the migrants for coming over to the richer countries looking for better prospects. But we cannot sustain this. I'm looking at the costs, the infrastructure problems, and the fact that locals feel so displaced. It's poorly managed. The costs. Unemployment. The gangmasters recruit the migrants in their own countries. They can undercut the locals because they house them in squalor, they pay them peanuts, they come over here and they work on the land. Generations of locals used to work on the land. They cannot now. The migrants are not fulfilling a need because there is no need for them to do this work because the locals had always done it. The locals have been priced out of work through no fault of their own. And I'll give you an example of we're told that we make money out of them. We don't. They don't pay tax in this country, most of them. The European Union allows them to pay tax in their own countries. So the actual costs, when you add up housing and education and health, is costing us a fortune. The other aspect is, and who's to blame the migrants for coming here? Child benefit. A chap in Bucharest can leave his wife and 2 children behind, come over to our country, work on a menial wage and send the child benefit home. That 2 lots of child benefit is probably more than he will earn in a month working in Bucharest. The system is crazy. And then there's translators. The Human Rights Act says we cannot make anybody speak English. A Polish census in 2011 dictated to all of us that we really want to try and put the case for the Polish migrants, all the rest of it. But they even found that 1/4 of Polish-born migrants had no real command of English. And in heavily populated migrant communities, this went up to a third, like Boston. I'm going to infrastructure now. A local doctor told me migrants can come here and immediately get free, endless health care because they're members of the European Union. The locals have been pushed out and made to queue. There is resentment, there's no infrastructure for the numbers. Maternity alone has increased by 53% in a decade. Schools fall to bursting. Boston Borough Council don't know how many migrants are here because we're only getting the figures if they bother to fill in the census. So many might live 5 to a room. You can't imagine them filling in a census. You cannot plan for this influx. And then there's housing. We had flooding recently in Boston. That's compromised a lot of future house building plans. Affordable housing is so in demand by the locals, but they see that the migrants are taking these places. We cannot have any more. And a feeling of displacement by the locals. As I said about unemployment, schools, health, there is also a culture among many Eastern Europeans, and I don't say all, of heavy drinking. We've had fights in Boston. Yes, we get fights from locals too. But we also have Eastern European mafia problems, which we never had before. There's also the problem of drinking and driving, and that's if they bother to tax and insure their cars. I'm talking about the reality of living amongst it. This is what's going on. The people feel displaced locally because of the numbers, because it's uncontrolled, because of our membership of the European Union. The Boston area voted in 16 UK independent county councillors last May because they're so concerned, because none of the main parties are listening. I was one of them. All I want to say to you is this. I would prefer to live in a country where everybody else wanted to live. However, I would rather not live in the country where everybody wanted to leave. And the only way we can keep this as a country where people want to live is by controlled immigration. Thank you.